Today we got to talk about an LSU summit. Oh, it's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, we got to talk about the LSU summit. Number one, because, well, my girlfriend Laurel decided that I could do this. So when you see her, tell her thank you. Otherwise, this probably doesn't get done until like Saturday. But here we are talking about this sort of breaking news because it's kind of a big deal. I also got tagged on the Twitters by 5-star and number one quarterback in the 2021 recruiting class, Caleb Williams, who said, and I quote, "I'm waiting on a video." And for good reason, because I'm going to start with what he had to say, go to what Ed Orgeron had to say, and then talk about what the LSU summit actually looks like. So, this weekend, we got the Hayes Fawcett edit, who does a tremendous job with these, and then we get Caleb Williams coming over the top in the retweet with, wait, so are they breaking any rules? Not saying they are, but for all the people that came after us, you go, sometimes you just got to be the first to do things, even if people don't like it. But to my guys that are going to have fun, y'all, lead Nuss, as in lead Garrett Nussmeier, because we are under the impression, and we led to believe, Garrett Nussmeier took a page out of the Caleb Williams book and decided to try to form an LSU summit with no less than 14 recruits, a lot of which are guys that both Oklahoma and LSU want, along with Clemson and Ohio State and others. That's the reason why this is a big deal. The other reason it's a big deal is because Ed Orgeron, head coach LSU Tigers, goes out of his way last week to talk about, I don't know if any rules have been broken, but we'll be interested to see what the NCAA has to say about the Sooner Summit, for which we saw guys like Savion Byrd, Caleb Williams, Tristan Leigh, Kamara Wheaton, all dudes that at one point or another LSU had been interested in or are still interested in, descending on Norman, and we had nothing but good things that we heard from that. We had media members that were taking them around town, showing them what's good, and this is interesting because for those of you that live under that particular recruiting rock, I don't know how you got to this segment, but I'm glad that you're here. We are in a dead period. And being in a dead period, that means that coaches can only have contact with recruits by telephone or written message, which is to say on the tweets, on the Facebooks, in the text, and on the FaceTimes, and on the phone calls. It is a difficult time to recruit, and yet we have never seen more commitments at the start of a high school football season. As a matter of fact, I actually wanted to write this down because I could not believe it myself until I saw it. But we got Josh Himmel over at Rivals who said he'd never seen this before because he did the percentages. 71.7% of 3-stars are committed. 80.7% of 4-stars are committed, and over half, 55% of all the 5-stars are committed. And again, he says these are the highest percentages he's seen at the start of a senior season in history of the rankings era, which dates back to about 1999. It's a big deal. It's a lot. Not something we're used to seeing because the kids have been led to understand that the spots are time sensitive. Which is to say that if they offered you the spot, you have to take it in this amount of time, otherwise it's going to go away. So we've had kids that have committed to play at colleges they have not visited. And it's not strange to see one or two dudes decide to do that. It is strange that more than half the guys that have committed haven't been able to visit except to say, go drive around campus with their parents, try to take in the sights. That's not a visit, okay? That's a ride-along. A visit is when you go to the football facilities and you're shown around by football liaisons and assistant coaches, offensive and defensive coordinators, and the head coach. And you are made to understand what this place can do for you. You're shown the academic counseling suite. You're shown the college where you're most likely to spend most of your time getting your degree. You're shown the weight room. You're shown a uniform. You get the uniform picked. You get to see what the lockers are. You get to spend overnights on an official with guys on the team. That is a visit. What we're doing right now ain't visits, okay? It's called a Zoom call. And we're so deep into the pandemic right now that we're making commercials about dudes coming out in their undies, expected to be on Zoom when their spouse had people over at the house going, yo, why didn't you tell me that we was actually having physical company? I thought we were doing a Zoom date. That's where we are right now. And we have Shane Lyons, who is the head of the NCAA's D1 Football Oversight Committee, going, yeah, we expect to extend the dead period through October 31st, which means that we would not have had anything like officials or unofficials between March 11th and October 31st, at a time when we're still expecting kids to actually sign during the early signing period, and you're going to see a lot of coaches are just fine with that. Which means that you're probably going to see a mass exodus into the transfer portal at one time or another, and we're going to see a tremendous amount of decommitments. Now, as for the LSU summit, this is where it gets interesting for me, because this weekend, LSU expects to have Garrett Nussmeier, Naquan Brown, Michael Trigg, Chris Hilton, Savion Byrd, Brian Thomas, Sage Ryan, Keanu Coate, Landon Jackson, JoJo Earl, Maason Smith, Tristan Leigh, and the number one player in the 247 Sports 2021 recruiting rankings, Korey Foreman. This is a hitters list of kids that are descending on Baton Rouge right now in August as the team is preparing for its season. This is wild interesting because it was Ed Orgeron, again, as I mentioned earlier in this segment, who was going, wait a second, I didn't know that we could do that. And now, what are you seeing? LSU, with a top 5 recruiting class, is shaking in their boots because little old OU decided they were going to have a group unofficial visit in Norman a couple weeks ago. Same LSU, y'all like to tell me, dropped 63 on Oklahoma, 63-28, won that championship. All of a sudden, y'all acting scared? Now, for all the LSU stands to show up in the comments to tell me how bad I am at my job, and yet here y'all are watching ads to get to me, I want to know, are you following Oklahoma? Because that's how it seems to be. Because who did this first but the 5-star at Gonzaga College High School in Washington, D.C., who's just trying to put around him and recruit with him a bunch of guys that can actually go win a national championship. And for LSU to be the defending national champs and to not be able to make any moves of its own is something altogether. But what are we seeing? Everybody's trying to do what they can to put together the best class that they can. I'm all for the kids at LSU getting together and having themselves a field trip, just like I'm all for the kids at OU getting together, having themselves a field trip. You heard from Garrett Nussmeier right near on this show. Class kid, class individual, and I'm rooting for him, just as I'm rooting for every last one of them. But for the fans that want to act like this is some sort of untoward circumstance, both on OU and LSU side, come on, man. Look in that mirror. Is that actually who you are? Are you that scared? Because last time I checked, the kids make the decisions, not you or I. We just get the privilege to see them play. That's it for me. Doses.